Welcome to this webinar describing what the Food Community Project was about. This particular project was conducted as a pilot project in the southwest of Western Australia. So firstly, what is food security? It can help by having a good understanding of what we mean when we talk about food security within the context of this particular project. So the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations really defines food security as that physical, social, and economic access to food. So the food must be safe, it must be healthy to meet their dietary needs and also their food preferences to make sure that they can live an active and healthy life. We often talk about the determinants of food security across pillars. So pillars being food availability, food access, food utilisation, and stability of those pillars. So you can see the range of different factors across each of those pillars, which are all contributing to whether someone has physical, social, economic access to nutritious food. So what were the objectives of the Food Community Project then? Well, we wanted to identify the initiatives that are supporting healthy food availability, access and use in the Southwest region and how those initiatives function as a system. So we wanted to examine which initiatives were in existence that addressed any of those determinants of food security within those particular three pillars and see how they're functioning together to work towards really trying to enhance that community level food security. And we also wanted to co-design more effective ways of ensuring healthy food availability, access and use for everyone living in the Southwest region. The framework that we used for identifying or really looking at the scope of which initiatives to include in this project was looking across the pillars of food security and those determinants, because when you're trying to tackle complex, wicked problems that have lots of underpinning factors or determinants or drivers or causes, it can help by breaking it down into component parts and trying to examine which interventions are trying to address different components of that problem. So that's why one of the frameworks we used in terms of determining the scope was this one here. So looking at the different pillars of food security and including initiatives that were addressing one or more of the determinants. The other theory that underpinned this way of working was systemic innovation theory and also looking at complex adaptive systems. So the concept was really trying to transition communities towards a new way of working that will more effectively address a complex problem. So there's been a number of features identified in the literature as successful in enhancing the addressing of these complex problems, such as food security. And these components are addressing complex problems, looking at all parts of the problem. I've particularly highlighted the place-based approach because, just to give you an example, when we are looking at trying to address a complex problem, it can help by choosing a geographical scope in which to do that, because otherwise it's almost never ending in terms of where you're going to be investigating the problem. And so it really helps to break that down, for example, into a geographical region of a state, and then you can look at that fine-grained local level, what's happening there. Sometimes it can help people working to address that problem take that wickedness or that complexity away from it, or that overwhelming sense of unsure how to address it, if you are looking at that fine-grained local level and what's happening on the ground, the types of programs that are working to address a problem. So what did we do? Well, we used a 6-stage approach or method that the organisation Wicked Lab developed, and this is a systemic innovation lab, and these stages specifically fall within the acronym FEMLAS. So this is based on a lot of evidence around the different ways of supporting communities and government to transition to a better way of working, a more effective way of addressing a problem. And this is more the practical application of that and how you go through those different stages to support those communities. What we did at the form stage, so stage 1, we formed our core team and our reference group. So our core team were staff from Edith Cowan University and also the Public Health Advocacy Institute of Western Australia. And we also put out an expression of interest for reference group members in the Southwest region. And they were people working across a variety of areas such as health, education, town planning, local government, state government, a variety of different people who could have some input into the design of this approach or really comment on components of the project, more so at the beginning. We also selected our geographical boundary, and as mentioned before, this can help really focus at that fine-grained local level of what's happening on the ground. And we selected the Southwest region. And the rationale for that was we had conducted previous research in Western Australia looking at food security, looking at food security determinants, looking at the prevalence of food insecurity. So we knew that there was an issue in the region, but we also knew there was good opportunity because there were lots of food-based initiatives happening in the region, anecdotally that we knew of. And so that's why it was also a good case for a pilot study to test out this new way of working, so using a systemic innovation lab approach. We also then scoped the existing projects supporting healthy food availability, access and use. And to do that, we conducted a Google search of all the different projects that were addressing or working towards one or more of those determinants of food security across the pillars. And so we compiled 2 databases. One was a database of actual initiatives, their contact details, the website, and the second database was the organisation facilitating those initiatives. And we needed both of those databases for the online tool that we used to analyse our data in this project. We then also wrote a briefing paper which outlined the intended process that we were wanting to take, background to the approach, and really just to act as a communication tool with government and local community. And then we also engaged local media to help to raise awareness of what we were trying to achieve. Stage 2 was explore, and that's where we held a project forum or a launch where we brought together members of the community, local government, state government to discuss what we were hoping to undertake in this project. They talked about the different initiatives that they know about that are already existing across food availability, access and use, so we could really scope or get a sense of anecdotally what's already going on, talking about what some issues regarding food security were in the region as well. And then we also used this as a way to identify potential projects for inclusion in the work. So after the forum, we then disseminated a information letter and consent form to the database full of initiatives that we had identified previously, so the contacts for those initiatives and any others that we'd identified through the forum as well. And overall, we were able to receive consent from people representing 52 different initiatives. And for a pilot study, that's quite a good number. At the project launch, we also worked with community members to design a project logo. So we had a number of potential options and they chose the one that you can see towards the bottom. So the food community logo with a number of different icons representing the pillars of food security. So each of our interviews, the questions in the interviews included questions that link to focus areas. So Wicked Lab's approach includes these broad umbrella focus areas, which they help to break down the different components of trying to transition community groups and government to this better way of working. So focus area 1 was shaking up the current way of working because we know that the status quo isn't working in terms of addressing low food security. Then focus area 2 is moving to a new and better way of working. Focus Area 3 is organisations working in new and more effective ways with each other. For example, things like branding, logos, looking at how they can be used to raise awareness of what each other's doing, common language that's discussed as well. And then Focus Area 4 was the new way of working becomes the dominant way of working amongst organisations. Focus Area 5 was helping to get information spread throughout the system, such as through social networking or e-newsletters. Focus Area 6 was helping the work undertaken by community organisations align with government priorities. Focus Area 7 was creating government policies that are shaped by community organisations. 8 was government using community knowledge and ideas. And Focus Area 9 was the government sharing information about community initiatives operating in their area. So that might have been through a strategy such as a project register on the local government website of all the different initiatives in their area that are supporting food security. Here are some example questions that include the focus area characteristics, and each of those, I should say, each of those 9 focus areas contains individual characteristics for system change that these initiatives possess. And in total, there are 36 characteristics that fall within these 9 focus areas. And you can see here for focus area 1, these are the different characteristics for system change that are included within this particular focus area. And it's all to do with shaking up that current way of working. So an example is 1.2, so cultivating a passion for action. And that's about trying to shake up what's currently already happening. So the question was, does your initiative create a passion for the community to take action around food security? So it might have been bringing the community together to create a local garden, for example. And you can see some other example interview questions there that are prompting responses from interviewees about their way of working through their initiative. And they provided yes or no answers to these questions, but then they were also asked to comment on their response. So we could get a better understanding of if they didn't possess these characteristics, then why not, or what comment was there around that. Some people said, oh, look, we don't at the moment, but it's definitely a plan for us to do that, or we currently don't have the capacity to do so. Or if they did include these particular characteristics, what were some examples within the context of their own initiative? Stage 3 was MAP, and that's where we used Wicked Lab's tool for systemic change. We were able to import our databases of the initiatives and also the organisations. And through the interviews, we also asked interviewees the kinds of organisations that they work with to undertake their initiative. So we were able to complete a system map or a partnership map to see who was working with whom to conduct their different initiatives. And we also created a digital case study book because people said that they wanted to know what others were doing in the network. They wanted to know what great work was happening on the ground. So from our interviews, we were able to get the information about their initiatives to create these case studies, which all of the initiative owners have commented on and approved. So who participated in these interviews? Well, you can see according to the worker type, we had 53 worker types included, and I should say that some people that were interviewed performed multiple roles within their initiative. So you've got their volunteers, we had directors, managers, coordinators, health professionals, so a variety of different types of people in terms of their work roles. When looking at the partner organisations, so they were asked who they partner with to run their initiative. So we had not-for-profit and the business sectors as quite large contributing partner organisations, as well as state government. So in total, we had 83 partnering organisations on the 52 initiatives that we collected. So what initiatives were included? So as mentioned, in terms of scoping and inviting the initiatives and the initiative owners to participate in the project, they needed to address one or more of those determinants of food security across the pillars. So we had a variety of different types of initiatives included, such as gardens, events, health promotion interventions, informal food swapping groups, hunger relief, food education type initiatives, farmers markets, policies, training and audits, and also private and social enterprise. And you can see a variety of different types of projects there. By far the largest contributing initiatives to this particular project were health promotion initiatives, so focusing on more the nutrition knowledge and cooking skills determinant of food security, and other things like hunger relief, social support, or food access type initiatives. So, what characteristics for system change did the initiatives possess? So, this is also where the tool for systemic change came into play, because we were able to enter the responses to all of the questions in our interviews into the tool, and it was able to generate this map to show down the bottom here on the x-axis all of these 36 characteristics for system change that fall within these 9 focus areas, which are color coded. And then on the y-axis are the 52 initiatives that were included. So all of the colored tiles represent an occasion where the particular initiative does possess that characteristic for system change. And you can see the example there is generating a passion for the community to take action around food security. So the particular focus areas that had the most characteristics possessed by initiatives was focus area 1, so shaking up the current way of working, and also focus area 4, so that new way of working becomes the dominant way of working, or really trying to change or lock in a new way of addressing a problem. So then, on the contrary, which characteristics for system change did we need to support through the network? So these particular ones were focus area 3, so it was around organizations working in that new and better way of working together, and also the focus areas 6, 7, 8, and 9, which were really the community and government interface, or those opportunities for community and government to work more together. So these particular focus areas needed some support to really enhance the great work that these initiatives were already achieving. And this was in our stage 4 learn. So this is where we really unpack the findings of the interviews and the data that's been analysed. So how did the initiative owners describe the characteristics, or their examples of how they met or possessed the characteristics? Well, you can see that the focus area 1 characteristics are listed down in the dark blue column, and then they've provided example comments as how they meet them. So for an example, here, the cultivating a passion for action around food security, passion about helping others and helping the community feel like they can make a difference. So also specifying goals in advance. They were saying their program is flexible as long as it's reducing food waste, supporting the exchange and sharing of food, so that they do have some goals, but they are relatively flexible. In terms of overall, that example initiative characteristic 1.2, when looking at the all of the responses from interviewees about that particular characteristic, people were talking about increasing awareness around local food. They wanted to support food sharing, network building, advocacy to communicate food needs and reduce food relief stigma, and also support food growing. The next stage was stage 5, so the address stage. This is where we re-engaged the network and brought them back together in an action planning workshop. So we had people come back together. We prepared 52 individual project reports, which showed it was really a refresher about those different characteristics. We showed them their results, so where their project or initiative possessed the different characteristics. We showed them also in a briefing paper, that overall system map to show where they fitted within the overarching system, the food security system. And then we had a facilitated action planning session where we were working in small groups at tables, and each table addressed a specific focus area and the characteristics that were individualized to their action plan. So overall, we chose the focus areas that needed that support. So focus areas 3, 6 and 7, 8 and 9. So these were the areas where across the system there were those most windows of opportunity, but then at the individual action plan level for each of the initiatives, we had listed the specific action areas or the characteristics where they might like to work to add value to what they were already doing. So we were able to support the system as a whole in transitioning to that more effective way of working, but we also wanted to support individual initiative holders. So if people then had proposed these actions to meet these characteristics or adopt them into their way of working, if a number of different initiatives did that and we remeasured or remapped that food security map, we could potentially see a shift in the way of working to address the problem. The next stage, or the final stage, was stage 6, and that was share. And that's where we need to share the information or the results from the mapping with people within the network. We need to get information spread out through the network. We want to support collaboration between the different organisations, and we needed a mechanism to do that. And so we were able to obtain funding to develop a specific food security platform called Food Community. And this is the platform that this webinar is hosted on. So hopefully you've had a chance to have a look around the website, but it's a way of connecting different people and initiative owners within the network and also support them, because there was a number of discussions, and also when we looked at the windows of opportunity in the system, those key areas particularly were about government and community connecting, so trying to help information dissemination between those. And so one idea and one opportunity, given that we were working with the Public Health Advocacy Institute of Western Australia, was to also develop an advocacy training course, which we've embedded into the Food Community platform. And that's about messaging, getting their messages right, helping to advocate to government. So it's a professional development opportunity for people within the network as well, to try to bridge the gap between government and community. We've also got other professional development opportunities through webinars, through different fact sheets, infographics, and so on. So why is all of this important? Why is this way of working important? So if multiple initiatives make changes or tweaks or enhancements to their way of working, and that's remeasured again, we could potentially see a shift in the system's way of working to address food security at that community level, and noting that we're not going to have an impact and we're not measuring individual level food security or household food security. It's more about the determinants approach and looking across that community level availability and access, and also supporting people's use of food. And an example is that if a local government strengthens their government-community interaction to inform a local plan about food, and a community initiative presents the local government with a description about their initiative and how it addresses community food security, we could start to see the system change characteristics relating to that community government interface strengthened. And that's also reinforcing the benefit of community and government working together to support changes to better address these wicked problems. So what would we like to see happen now? Well, we would like to support government staff to engage with community groups to learn from their ways of supporting food security. Some examples are position descriptions requiring staff to consider community ideas in their work, how-to engagement toolkits, and community groups developing fact sheets explaining their initiative, because this also helps government understand what is happening within their area. We'd also like to strengthen understanding among community groups of government staff and elected member roles. Some examples could be interviews or podcasts with local government workers. Local government staff could be encouraged to develop fact sheets about their role for inclusion on their websites. And we'd also like to see effort focused towards poor community response to low food security, such as through breaking down the problem into working group areas to address components or determinant areas of food security. And this could be through a food policy council or another government's type of mechanism. If you'd like to read more about this work, we have published 2 papers and we have more that are coming soon, so you can feel free to read these to get a better understanding of how we've undertaken a systemic innovation lab to understand and support the food security system in the southwest region of Western Australia.